100 years ago, women were treated very differently than they are today. No provinces in Canada granted women the right to vote yet, and women could not be appointed to the Senate. 5 Canadian women by the names of Emily Murphy, Irene Parlby, Henrietta Ware Edwards, Louise McKinney, and Nellie McClung put forward a petition called the Persons Case. They challenged the government, stating that women are considered persons too and should be able to sit in the Senate. In 1929, it was declared that women are legally considered persons. These women would be forever known as the famous 5, the Valiant 5. Welcome to the 20th century. Women in Canadian history. We all had a role to play so that women could be heard today. We're the famous 5, the Valiant 5, the famous 5, the Valiant 5, changing the lives of the sisters, mothers, wives. The famous 5, here is why. It's me, I'm Nellie McClung. 1916, fought for women and won. Yes, we could vote, but I wasn't done. The famous 5, we made a petition. Are we persons? Could you please clarify? Are we persons? Even if I'm not a guy. 1929, we say you can sit in the Senate if you are a lady. My turn, I'm Emily Murphy. I'm educated and I moved to the prairies. 1916, my political victory. First woman judge, now can we win the battle of the Persons Case? Oh, it's the Persons Case. 1929, we say you can sit in the Senate if you are a lady. Oh. Henrietta Ware Edwards, they call me. Women's laws and rights are my expertise. Many years we fought to be a person legally. We're the famous 5, the Valiant 5, the famous 5, the Valiant 5, changing the lives of the sisters, mothers, wives. The famous 5, the Valiant 5, the famous 5, the famous 5.
Well, big thanks to Brianna Burke from Saskatoon for sharing just one of her songs from her musical about the famous 5. Each one of them was a magnificent Canadian with some flaws, of course, but how nice to be remembered that they were working individually at that time for women to have the right to vote, and we're in the middle of an election. A little more about that later. So bienvenue, welcome. On behalf of the Famous 5 Foundation, and particularly our Director of Events, Frida Killar, thank you for joining us today. This is a Famous 5 Friday. It's a day when women have more power and see more opportunities. And that's what we want to do today, is to discuss and learn from outstanding women how we can become leaders or better leaders too. The famous five, as you know, were responsible for women receiving the right to vote, first in Manitoba provincially and then throughout Canada. But I guess the bigger question is, what have we done with our vote? And what are we going to do as women with our vote? Hopefully, the overwhelming answer is that we are all going to vote on October 20th, or indeed today, because I think the advanced polls, I know the advanced polls open today. So please go and vote. For decades, for 40, 50 years now, women's groups, educators, economic analysis and groups have suggested that the best way for women to fully participate in our economy is for there to be a national daycare program. Now, one of our major parties in the federal election is proposing exactly that, and it is supported by the two other parties. So the three that are in favor are the Liberals, the NDs, and the Greens. Two parties oppose it. So what we need to do is to think about, is this our opportunity to vote for a program that we know will benefit many, many women, not only today and tomorrow, and will enable the children to start on their education and will help us economically? Or do we get stuck on giving preference to the leader or the party that we normally vote for? It's a real dilemma. But by all means, please vote. And when you vote, please think of the women in Afghanistan and Texas. So please go and vote. And more than ever before, we have female candidates. And it's thanks to a group like Rosemary Spear's Equal Voice and Ask Her YYC, who have run pan-partisan campaign colleges for the last couple of years, getting women ready to be candidates, to be campaign workers. Currently, only 29% of our MPs are female. So it's definitely time for more women to be in the House of Commons, and you can do your part. Another group that we're seeing as candidates and increasing the number of candidates are Indigenous candidates. And that's wonderful too, because we need so many different voices around the table, discussing the key issues, and of course, making the decisions. So our thanks very much to the Indigenous candidates who are running, and good luck to them as well. And this brings me, of course, to our land acknowledgement. I'm in Treaty 7. What treaty are you in? And of course, I'm also in Métis Land 3, Treaty 3. And that's the other group we need to give respect to. So our gratitude to our Indigenous brothers and sisters for the many years that they've taken care of Canada, and hopefully a bigger role played by them in the future, thanks to the voters of Canada, particularly the women voters of Canada. It is now my pleasure to call upon a very fine representative of Enbridge, our sponsor for these virtual pink teas. In addition to Enbridge supporting for many years our vision and mission to inspire and celebrate women to achieve, and then to celebrate their achievement so that more girls and women are inspired to achieve, to be leaders, Enbridge has provided a series of wonderful role models. Today, their role model is Terry Major. Terry is the technical manager, I have to read this, is the technical manager in the Transaction Management Office of Corporate Development at Enbridge, AKA she's a leader. She's a very good leader. Terry earned an economics degree at the University of Calgary and then her MBA at Queen's. And being the mother of two children, she's had lots of practice making decisions and making good decisions, important decisions. So when Terry's not at Enbridge, she's a bike rider, and she participates in the Enbridge bike ride tour of Alberta to raise funds for cancer research. So it is now my pleasure to introduce Terry so that she can introduce our amazing panelists today. Thanks, Terry. Over to you.
Thank you, Frances. It's an honor to be here today on behalf of Enbridge. We've been a proud sponsor of the Famous Five Foundation for nearly 20 years, and we truly believe in and support the Foundation's vision, which is to champion the development and recognition of Canada's female leaders. We share this goal within Enbridge as well and continue to work on our commitment to diversity and inclusion as part of our environmental, social, and governance targets. In fact, in late 2020, Enbridge added inclusion as one of our core values, complementing our existing values of safety, integrity, and respect. We continue to increase female representation at senior levels, and today, 36% of our board of directors are women, and 31% of all leadership roles are held by women. We're proud of this, but know we have further to go, which is why we're working to increase representation of women, underrepresented racial and ethnic groups, Indigenous peoples, veterans, and people with disabilities. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speakers today. I believe one of the major reasons Canada has done so well at this year's Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics is because of these three remarkable women whom we are going to meet today. Senator Chantal Petitclerc has overcome serious adversity, losing the use of her legs in a farm accident. She has conquered many obstacles to become a true champion, a champion of sport, of people, and of quality of life. She has earned gold medals in Olympic Games, the Paralympic Games, and Commonwealth Games, and was appointed Team Canada's chef de mission for the Rio de Janeiro Paralympic Games. As a tireless advocate for the contributions people with disabilities have made to our society, she is building a more inclusive society and inspiring people all over the world to overcome their challenges and reach their full potential. Senator Petitclerc has earned many awards, including being the recipient of the Lou Marsh Trophy for Canadian Athlete of the Year. She was appointed to the Senate of Canada in 2016, where she provides for dynamic and unique perspective, all this in addition to raising a young son. Joining Senator Petitclerc today is another elite athlete, Anne Merklinger, CEO of Own the Podium, which focuses on investment strategies for national sport organizations. Several years ago, Anne earned a silver medal as a member of Canada's swim team in the 200-meter breaststroke. After a distinguished swimming career, she changed sports and consistently ranked as one of Canada's foremost curlers, twice leading her team to the finals of the Scott Tournament of Hearts. Anne's experiences in sport as an athlete and management professional are complemented by her extensive volunteer experience, which these days includes being a member of the Board of Special Olympics Canada. Thanks to Anne's skillful and collaborative leadership at Own the Podium, our athletes are excelling. They're setting records and winning medals more than ever before, while providing a generation of outstanding role models, making us all very proud. More than ever before, our Olympians and Paralympians are expressing their gratitude for the role their coaches play in their success, and in part because of Lorraine Lafrenière and her team at the Coaching Association of Canada. Lorraine has participated in more than a dozen Olympic and Paralympic Games in various leadership capacities. She was twice named to the Canadian Association for the Advancement of Women and Sport Top 20 Most Influential Women in Canada in 2014 and 2015. Being an advocate for resilience in all facets of life, Lorraine is the happy mother of two and a proud cancer survivor. These virtual pink tea conversations were launched just over a year ago, and Lorraine was our very first VIP host. She and Becky Scott set the bar very high. We're very grateful Lorraine has agreed to participate today and lead the discussion once more. Let's start today's fascinating conversation with these exceptional women. Over to you, Lorraine.
Thank you so much. It's so lovely to be with you. we get to do our, what I like to say is our fireside chat. So I'm pretending that I'm sitting with Chantal and Anne in our room together, and you're with us, and we're all relaxing, and we're about to hear about these two incredible women. You've heard their resume, which is 1/100th of who these great people are. And who they are as great people and as human beings. And I just have to let you know that I feel so privileged to be able to share in highlighting them. And we've known each other for decades, you know, so I can certainly talk about such a gift it has been and how much better it's made me as a person to be around the halo of these two women and what they've done. So a lot of gratitude to be here with you, and I'm super excited. So we thought we'd start with a little bit of a warm-up question for us three. And where we're going to go is to touch on the theme of this conversation today. And so that one was, the first one was excellence as a mindset. And I love that notion of talking about excellence as a mindset and sport, and how it manifests in your life and how they contribute to each other, and how it shows up for each of you. So Senator Petitclerc, how about you?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure. It's a privilege to be part of this event and to be in your company, both of you. So thank you for having me. And when I read excellent is a mindset, I was pleased with that theme, because it really speaks to me very loudly, because I think sometimes we think that excellence, you know, we think that some people are born for it, that it's their temperament, it's their personality, it's and I like to think that when it comes to excellence, it's really about choices, and that we can, you know, we can make these choices, we can make these changes that we need to do in order to get to the excellence, to our own definition of excellence, which is, you know, if you ask me in 2008 what my definition of excellence was, it's probably different. And I was entering my last games and trying to win 5 gold medals. So I like this idea of it's a mindset, and it's a choice, and that we can have a control over what we want to achieve, and we can actually change if we need to change, if it's important enough for us. So that's how I see excellence, as a mindset.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. It's organic. It's always growing and changing. And I love your use of the word choice. Anne, over to you.
Well, first of all, I just am so privileged and honored and grateful to be a part of this this platform and this event today. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I just am so humbled to be a part of it. So, you know, for me, excellence, it's an attitude. It's part of who we are. It's not so much an outcome. It's really it's an attitude. It's part of our soul. It's part of our DNA. And as Chantal said, it influences the choices that we make each and every day. It influences how we behave, how we show up, how we see ourselves, how other people see us. So it's very much ingrained in who we are as people, as leaders.
Mm. You know, one of the questions that I was thinking about, thinking about how you might answer today, and it's a question about sport and excellence. And I wonder sometimes if it's like a chicken and egg, you know, does excellence create sport performance? Does sport performance create excellence? So I wouldn't mind just kind of hearing, and let's start there with you, and then I'll come back to Chantal and veer off a little bit another way.
Yeah, I mean, I think, of course, you know, my day-to-day life is invested very much in sport, and specifically in high performance sport. But I think excellence permeates everything that we do. every minute of every day. So excellence as a parent, as a partner, as a friend, in supporting our family, in supporting our community. So, you know, excellence, of course, in high performance sport is very, you know, I would say specifically defined with On the Podium in terms of ultimately winning medals at the Olympic and Paralympic Games. But Canadians want to be excellent in everything they do, whether it be, you know, in science, in industry, in arts, in culture, you name it. When we have Canadians who aspire to be excellence, it impacts our entire country. It impacts every Canadian. And we, you know, as we heard earlier, it generates this whole new, you know, creation of new role models who can inspire young boys and girls from coast to coast to coast, whether it be in sport or music, you know, science, industry, you name it. I mean, excellence is a choice that we have as Canadians to pursue for ourselves to be as excellent as we can possibly be.
Yeah, and it's, you know, there's the research is clear that, you know, elite athletes who perform in sport at the Olympics and Paralympics go on to be executives, witness the two great women in front of us here today. And so it's just a fascinating, it's such a fascinating mindset contributor to sport and a person's whole being, you know. So Chantal, if we veer from excellence as a mindset and we go into adversity, and yes, you know, we talk about the adversity in your young life, but adversity has come to you in many shapes and forms throughout your life, as throughout ours. Anne and I are both cancer survivors, and you know, I'm always fascinated with this notion of adversity as an opportunity, you know, as the power of adversity, you know, and how it creates opportunities. So you embody that. You embody that. So who better to hear from on that?
Well, I think it's true, and you know, and even when you said adversity, opportunity, and you tiptoed a little bit because we feel it's a bit of a cliche, right? But it's a cliche because it's true, and it's true that going through the biggest challenges of our lives, and those challenges that we don't choose and that we can't control. In my case, of course, the obvious one is my accident. And I had this accident, I was 13. And I always say that through this accident, even if I was very young, I learned that, you know, you don't choose, well, clearly, you don't choose everything that happens to you. You don't want it, you don't see it coming. And I think many of us can relate when we're going through this pandemic. We don't want it, we didn't see it coming, but it's there and we have no choice but to face it. And I think that somehow, and sometimes when you're young, you're strong, right? And I really learned very quickly that the only choice that you have is a choice over your own actions and your attitude and your mindset. And I want to talk about the other challenge and adversity that I don't talk often because I prefer to talk about my gold medals. But in 2003, I failed badly at World Championships in Paris, and you know, other Canadians beat me. I did not like that. My sponsors were there. You know, I was destroyed, and again, as an athlete, it was one of the worst situations for me, and a wake-up moment where, you know, as athlete, the thing with sport is you can't hide behind excuses. You have to be honest with yourself. And I had a coach who was very good at making us very honest with each other. And after this bad performance, it was clear that I like we say in sport, I choked. You know, I choked under pressure. I under-delivered. And to me, it was very, very important because it was about this adversity that I did not, you know, excel, and I did not behave properly, or I did not do my best. And then it was this most amazing learning experience on, if it's important enough for me, I can change, I can learn to cope with that kind of pressure, which I did. And so I think yes, obstacles, challenges, adversity, we need to take them as something, you know, if we don't make it something positive, then it's a complete waste.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, the ultimate public experience, as you say, you know, where you felt you choked and how you know, experienced that, you know, quite frankly, it's so publicly, that is part of the uniqueness of sport performance. And so it's fascinating to go from that to where you are today. And I just want to share a little bit with everyone that I had the privilege of being with Chantal as a young racer in 1994 at the IPC at Paralympic World Athletic Championships in Berlin, just after the wall had fallen. That was a fascinating experience in and of itself, Chantal? And you know, I remember watching you and sitting there with your great coach, and just the light and the potential was just so fascinating to be around. So I want to put you a little bit on the spot, and Senator, if I may, did you design this future for yourself to be Senator Petitclerc?
No, I did not. And in fact, like many athletes, is you retire, you have the performances, you have sometimes the medals, you have all these skills, competence, expertise, but you don't quite know how to transfer that into a professional life. You know, it's like suddenly, you know, they tell you you need to grow up, and you haven't really, you haven't, in my case anyway, it was not clear. But what was clear is that I wanted to have an impact. I wanted to make a difference. And so when this call, really, this opportunity to be a member of the Senate happened, that was my first and only question. You know, can I bring something? Can I add a plus value? Can I make a difference? And I was reassured that I could. So I jumped in because, well, I like a challenge, and it was the steepest learning curve that I've ever had to face in my life, going from athlete to legislator, parliamentarian, and it's been an incredible privilege. But no, you know, and I think sometimes there's no right or wrong. Some people have it. They know exactly where they want to be, and I know who I want to be and what I want to accomplish, but I don't know exactly how that is going to become reality. You know, was it going to be as a coach? Was it going to be as a senator or in the media? But I think sometimes knowing your values and what you want to bring, and then, you know, it's a bit of a surprise where it lands you.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. And, you know, I can't help but, you know, reflect on Emily Murphy of the famous Five, who died in her sleep before she had the privilege of becoming a senator one day. And I am sure she's just thrilled that you're here having this conversation with everyone. And so it's so lovely to be able to share in that conversation with you. You know, I think, Anne, if I could, Anne is just this incredible leader, very true to who she is as a person, you know, consistently over the years in every role that I've seen Anne play, she has been true and very, forgive me for doing this a little bit, Anne, but I want to set the stage here, very courageous in admitting, you know, struggle, a challenge, disappointment, success, opportunity. I've never seen anyone, you know, quite frankly, so determined in my entire life. And I can tell you that part of the opportunities that were created for Canada's athletes through COVID to actually perform at the Olympics and Paralympics is because of Anne. And when other people were saying no, she would turn around and ask the question again. So I'm going to set her up with a little emotion there. And then I'm going to say, Anne, I want to talk to you about this incredible ability to create creative, courageous conversation that you do so well and so often to make us all better.
Well, thank you for that, Lorraine. You know, I reflected just in preparing for this great conversation today on my life and some of the things that have happened in my life and the perspective that I've acquired from some of those. And there's a couple of key ones. I mean, you mentioned, you know, we're both cancer survivors. So, you know, I don't often say this, but I actually think it was a bit of a gift because it really helped me acquire a greater perspective in terms of, you know, always reminding myself to be grateful, to be caring, and to be kind, and to treasure all the gifts in my life. And the role that I have with On the Podium is, it's a gift. It's such a privilege to be able to support the pursuit of Canada's athletes and coaches in trying to win medals at the Olympic and Paralympic Games. For me, there's no better job in the world. I am absolutely convinced that this is the best job any Canadian could ever have. And there's nothing more special for me than seeing an athlete, you know, climb the podium and see the Canadian flag raised and sing the national anthem. So when COVID arrived and, you know, we were in a tough place as a country and we had very stringent but safe measures for Canadians to follow through the pandemic. And I felt, you know, this deep, soulful obligation to try and find a way that Canada's athletes could prepare to the highest degree possible under very difficult conditions for Tokyo, for both the Olympic and Paralympic Games. And so that passion to support Canada's athletes and coaches is just so ingrained in who I am. You know, and I think also my experience with cancer reignited my passion to do that, to my passion to win. I was going to beat cancer. There was no doubt in my mind. And you know that as well as anyone, Lorraine, because we've shared that experience together. I think it also renewed my level of self-confidence and awareness that conveyed a level of gratitude about, you know, every day is a gift. I live for the moment, and I'm able to, I think I'm able to bring that perspective to what I do with On the Podium. So again, I think it's a real privilege to have an opportunity to help Canada's athletes and coaches perform at the Olympic and Paralympic Games.
Yeah, it is a gift, and it's been such a fascinating journey to watch your belief that you left no rock unturned, no stone unturned, leading up to opening ceremonies for the Olympics and Paralympics. And so thank you for that on behalf of Canada. I would like to close off before we hear from our two great young women leaders with this question for both of you. And so Senator Petitclerc, what would you say to your 21-year-old self?
Oh, I would tell her to be more confident. Sometimes I look back and, you know, but my expertise and quality was there, and my confidence was not at the same level. And it's the case for so many young women. And I think, why does it take so long to just be fully confident? And that's, you know, that's what I would tell myself is there's no reason to wait to be confident and to just go for everything you want.
Lovely and surprising at the same time. Lovely and surprising at the same time. So, Anne, what about you?
Well, I'd have a lot to say, frankly. You know, another 40 years of living has taught me a lot since I was 21. So I'd probably write myself a book. And it would start with anything is possible and dream big. That would be the first line of my book. But the second, and maybe the book, you know, the closing chapter might be, don't get caught up in the titles or the compensation. Just find your passion, work hard, do the work harder than you think you have to, and the rest will take care of itself.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anne and Senator Petitclerc. Okay, well, thank you for that. I feel like it's flying by, but I know we have two great young women who from Spirit North who have questions for you. And so the first one's from Frances. So over to Frances.
Hi, Frances Satney. Glantan Habertisa. Hi, my name is Frances. I'm from the Caribou clan. How long did it take you to become a successful athlete? Recital Senator Petitclerc.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that question. Well, it took me 20 years almost. I mean, you know, it took me many hours of training, and it took me a dream. I think it all starts with a passion. I tried wheelchair racing, fell in love with the sport, and I had a lot of fun. And I want to say it, I had a lot of fun training and racing, and then learning and getting better and better and better. When I retired in 2008, I think I was the best that I had ever been in my career as an athlete. And so it took me all these years of being on the track, in the gym, every day, 2-3 times a day. So it is a lot of work, a lot of discipline, a lot of pressure, but it is also a lot of fun, and it was absolutely worth it. I would do it again and again and again.
Lovely. Oh, Frances, what a great question. Okay, so just our next question is from Jessica.
Haditsa, Jessica Satni. What's up with you, Habititsa? Hi, my name is Jessica. I'm in the Beaver Clan. Who is your biggest inspiration? Recital Senator Petitclerc.
For me again? Okay,
Yes,
so
and then we'll put Anne on the hot
inspiration. Yeah, I have a lot of inspiration. I'm like a sponge. Like I soak up energy and women who inspire me. Well, Anne is one of them. So Anne is one of my inspiration, and you, Lorraine, as well. If we look at famous people, Simone de Beauvoir is my famous first role model. I think I was young, you know, a famous French philosopher, Simone de Beauvoir, feminist. I own every single thing that she wrote, the journals, and she continues to inspire me. Many athletes as well. I'm a big fan of Caroline Brunet. Maybe some don't know her so well, and she was a famous also Olympian. But really, so many people, famous or not famous, and I try to, if someone inspires me, I go and I never hesitate, and I think I did it with you, Anne, to say, let's go have a coffee. I need to grab everything that you can bring to me. And I think that would be my advice, because you would be surprised how often people will say, yes, of course, I can share my wisdom with you. And so I never hesitate to let people inspire me.
Love it. Anne, what about you? How about you?
Well, thank you, Lorraine, and thank you for the great question. Two fantastic questions. Chantal, you are continuing to inspire Canadian girls and boys and young women across our entire country. So you're definitely an inspiration for me. And as I mentioned, I get to work with Canada's athletes and coaches, and they all inspire me. And there's probably no better example than the most recent Tokyo Olympic Games, where the performance of our Canadian women in the Games was absolutely incredible. Canadian women won 75% of our overall medal haul at the Tokyo Olympic Games. We're just doing the data on the Paralympic Games, but to think that they won 75% of the medals in Tokyo. Canadian women won, when you compare it to what happened in Rio in 2016, they won 73% of the medals. So we even improved on that from Rio compared to Tokyo. And in London, it was about 50% of the medals. And we're leading all other nations. The next best to us as a country was the Netherlands, and they won, the Netherlands women won 60% of the medals. So we're way ahead of the rest of the world, and that's an inspiration to all Canadians from coast to coast to coast.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing in this conversation with me, and wonderful. We could continue, but I'll stop here and invite Frances, who's joining us again, I believe.
Well, I'm thrilled to be able to do so. Thank you very much, Lorraine and Chantal. Some of the questions that registrants have sent to us, I would like to ask you now, or sort of a synopsis of them. So Audrey and Dawn have sent in a question for Senator Petitclerc, and they want to know, do you support Bill C-35, which, if adopted, if passed, would create a federal supplement for people with disabilities? And they say this is not only their proposal, but it is supported by other disability groups and women's groups. So, Senator, if we may hear what you think about Bill C-35, please.
I think, it will show my 5 years in the Senate, because I will answer like a parliamentarian, and I will say that for now I do support it in principle, which really is what I'm saying, is that I'm looking forward. This bill was tabled just before the election, and so I'm looking forward for this bill to be studied, to have the witnesses to learn more, because that's part of my job. Is we get those legislation and we dig deep and we try to understand, is it doing exactly what it's meant to do? Is it going to protect who it's meant to protect, and is it enough? And I guess, but in fact, I do support it, because what we've seen during the pandemic and before, we knew it, but the pandemic, we've really seen it, how it disproportionately affected persons living with a disability in Canada. And really, to me, it speaks loudly on the fact that we have to do more. There is no reason why in a country like Canada, being a person with a disability would mean that, that you are so struggling with having a decent job, decent housing, decent access to care, facilities, tools that you need. And we did adopt the Accessible Act a few years ago, but now we need to see action. We need to see results. We need to make sure, and we have, we're having this conversation in Canada on inclusion and diversity at so many levels. And I want to make sure that when we're having this discussion, we don't forget about persons living with a disability, because, the Accessible Act was called the Barrier-Free Act. And to me, this is very important, because words are important. And when we speak about someone living with a disability, what we can see is that when we take off those barriers, when we take off the obstacles, when then the disability, doesn't really have that much of an impact. So yes, I think I'm very much looking forward to studying Bill C-35.
To studying it. Thank you for that. And Anne, Own the Podium, I think, is largely funded by taxpayer dollars. Would you tell us, please, how Own the Podium pays back taxpayers? We invest in you, and what's the return to us, please?
Sure. Well, I'd like to go back to the 2010 Vancouver Olympic and Paralympic Games, which was really when the legacy of Own the Podium was created. And up until Canada hosted the Vancouver Games, we had not won a gold medal in either of our two hosting opportunities, one in Montreal and one in Calgary. And the Vancouver Host Organizing Committee and all the funding partners, including the Government of Canada, said if the Vancouver Games are going to be successful, then our Canadian team needed to be successful in both the Olympic and Paralympic Games. And so On the Podium was created, and a significant financial investment became available for Canada's national sport organizations. And the Canadian team performed exceptionally well in the Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games in Vancouver. And I believe it changed our country. It made us a prouder, more confident nation, a more united nation. Communities came together. People remember where they were when we won the gold medal in hockey, just like people are going to remember where they were when our women's national soccer team won the gold medal in Tokyo. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it and talking about it. And Canadians want to do well. They want to aspire to be excellence. We want to be recognized as being excellent in every field. And every athlete, Olympic, Paralympic, winter, summer, that is successful at games, this creates a whole new generation of role models that inspire young boys and girls to get physically active. So that's the return on investment of Canadian taxpayers for the Targeted Excellence Strategy for On the Podium. And on behalf of all of Canada's athletes and coaches, thank you for your ongoing support.
Wow. As a non-athlete, I've got goosebumps, and I wish I'd become more athletic for now, but I guess it's never too late. There are a number of other questions, but I'm wondering, Lorraine, before I wrap up, are there any questions you have or a question you have left unasked, or should I continue?
Oh, well, you can continue. I mean, I could have gone into a few other areas too. I mean, but I'd love to hear some of the questions that are coming up.
Okay. So one of the other questions has to, of course, deal with the situation of women in Afghanistan and how lucky we are to be Canadians. And so I'm just wondering how sports plays a role in the democratization of a country. Chantal, Senator, would you care to comment?
Yes, I would. Yes, I can start, and I'm sure that Anne, you have maybe a deeper perspective on that from the inside of the sports system. But I do have to say that when the Paralympic Games began, we learned that the Afghan team was not going to show up at the Paralympics, and it was very significant because for the first time it was going to be a women Afghan athlete that was supposed to be there, and for a while there was she was not coming anymore, and then the sport, and I don't have the details on how they made it happen, but they made it happen, and they went to the games, and everybody that was there on the ground said how it was a symbol of, we can have an impact, we can make this happen, and we can make sure that this woman would in fact be there and represent her country. But it was more than representing the country. It was representing, it was an act of rebellion almost. That's the way I saw it anyways, that she actually was able to compete in spite of everything that was happening. We also know of a wheelchair basketball player, a woman who found a way to, who got out during the turmoil of Afghanistan and was taken by the Spanish team and is now part of the Spanish wheelchair basketball team. So again, and I'm sure there are many stories like that, but if I want to make it wider, I think when it comes to the Paralympics, having this momentum and having the Paralympic movement saying, and the Paralympic movement this year, on top of the athletic that is happening, they started this movement that is called We the 15. We the 15 meaning that there are 15% of persons with disability in the world, and they're really trying to say we need to do more, and sport can be a tool. And they're not saying it only for women with disability and women athletes with disability, but my feeling is that it will have even a bigger impact for women with a disability, because the truth is, in many countries, there are still a lot of stigma, taboos on women, of course, but even more so on women with disability, and even more so on women with disability trying to do sports. So I do think that Canada and that there is an international role that can be played, and we play it. And I think maybe Anne can continue on the role that we try to play. I like to believe that we are playing this role, so I'm hoping I'm right.
Yes, absolutely. I think we are right. And Chantal, I think you summarized it very eloquently. I believe, and I know, all of my fellow panelists believe that sport has the power to change the world. And we saw that happen at the Paralympic Games. It elevated the the platform for messaging to increase the awareness of political and social crises around the world, not just in Canada, but globally. And that will continue to happen. And we've seen several examples of those. And I guess the other thing is when, you know, people from Afghanistan are landing in our country, it would just be fantastic if we could have them all get off the plane and be given a soccer ball or be given a pair of ice hockey skates or a helmet or a pair of goggles so they could swim, so that they can become active participants in sport and physical activity and recreation, and to really help in their healing and finding new communities in our country.
Thank you. And Lorraine, I'm sure as a coach and as the CEO of the Canadian Coaching Association, you have some thoughts on this subject as well.
Well, I think, yes, we develop coaches internationally. We train coaches internationally. We work in many different countries trying to support the development of coaches because of the power and the influence they have to build people, healthy people, but also holistically build the person. And so, you know, for me, sport is always one of those conversations where we have countries who reach out to us because they understand the power of the coach, and they simply want to train their coaches to have the greatest impact they can have in their country. And, you know, one only has to look at the organization like Right to Play, who's had such a phenomenal impact around the world, to understand the power of sport. And so if any of our participants have a chance to check out Right to Play, they'll see just another aspect of development economic through sport.
Thank you. Well, there's so many other issues we could talk about, and talk about more about some of the ones that Lorraine has already raised, but it's time now for the famous 5 lightning round of questions. So I'm just going to start a sentence and then ask that you respond just with 1 or 2 words. So not an explanation, just 1 or 2 quick words. So the first question is, when I'm confused, Senator, when I'm confused,
write down. I write everything. I write down a plan.
And what do you do?
I ask questions.
Lorraine?
Curiosity.
Curiosity. So when you're scared, what do you do? Senator?
I take a deep breath, and I'm not good with the one word. I take a deep breath and I dive, I think.
You dive.
I dive in. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anne, please.
I lean on someone.
Oh, interesting. And Lorraine, when I'm scared, I?
Turn the light on.
Good one. And the third one is, when I'm sad, I? Senator, what do you do when you're sad?
I call a friend.
Lovely. Anne?
I cry and show my vulnerability.
Wow. Lorraine?
I cry.
Yeah. I think a fair number of us do. These are, you're giving us responses to help us, the rest of us, when we feel confused or scared or sad. So thank you for that. And my last lightning question is, if the famous 5 were alive today, they would. Senator?
They would be very happy that the Senate is now 50% women.
And there can be more women, and it's always changing because people have to retire at the age of 75. So we're encouraging all the women of Canada to apply, or to get someone else to apply to be a senator, because Chantal needs some help there in Ottawa. And if the famous 5 were alive today, they would?
They would remind us that we need to be the change we want to see in our country.
I thought you might say they want to be hockey players or basketball players. Geez whiz, where's the sports? Lorraine, it's up to you. If the famous 5 were alive today, they would?
That's the pressure to say they'd be coaches.
Yes. And weren't they in other ways? Weren't they coaching?
Yes.
They were coaching us to be democratic. They were coaching us to participate, to be brave, to look around and see what needed to be done. Well, it's now our pleasure to say thank you to these three outstanding women. So we're at a tea party, and hopefully we've got a teacup. But if not, your glass or your mug is fine, because we're going to do a toast. But at a tea party, it's a gathering of women to talk about our lives and to say where the obstacles are and ask for help, ask for solutions, ask for buddies to help solve the problem. Because as we do that, we eliminate some of our self-doubts. Senator, you said about having self-doubts as a child. Some of us still have self-doubts as adults. And so we need to come to grips with that again and proceed, because it all helps to building a better Canada that is a role model, that is a leader for other countries as well. So our first toast, of course, is to an incredible Paralympian champion, a winner of 21 medals, and someone who Anne referenced earlier is an inspiration to people around the world, not just in Canada, but around the world. And what she does is she encourages people to overcome their obstacles, to find a way out, to find a solution, to aim for their gold medal, whatever it is. But to dream big, aim for the gold medal. And so our first toast is to the incredible Senator and Paralympian champion, to Chantal Petitclerc. To Chantal Petitclerc. As well, friends, I just want to add that there was a bill that passed the House of Commons to make our anthem gender neutral by changing just 2 little words, but it ran into a parliamentary obstacle that blocked even the consideration by senators of the bill. Well, being a problem solver, Senator Petitclerc and Senator Francis Lankin and a few others got their heads together and asked their staff, how can we change this? And they figured out a way to overcome this blockade. And so as a result, in Tokyo and everywhere else, anywhere in the world Canadians are, we sing with great pride, "O Canada, true patriot love in all of us," command. So thank you, Senator Petitclerc, for helping in that regard too. And Anne Merklinger. Well, it's her collaborative and brilliant leadership that has enabled so many more of our Canadian athletes to think of themselves as winners and to work hard and become winners and show the world that Canada is a winning nation. I mean, we have a reputation for peacekeeping, and I think now we're developing quite the reputation as winners. And that feeling of being a winner spills over onto those of us who are non-athletes, and it helps us to think, well, if they can do it, maybe I can do it, and work hard, put a team together, and achieve a goal. So to Anne Merklinger, and own the podium. Thank you very much, Anne.
Thank you.
And our last toast, just at the moment, is to Lorraine Lafrenière, who increased, as you may have noticed with Tokyo, there's been increased recognition and respect by the athletes, both the winners of medals and not winners of medals, for the team that has helped them get there. And one of the key players for an excellent athlete is to have an excellent coach. And it is to Lorraine and her team that have supported the coaches, who then supported the athletes, who then have been supported by families and others as well, to other professionals. So Lorraine, thank you very much for providing this excellent source of inspiration and knowledge to our athletes. So to Lorraine Lafrenière, our wonderful VIP host today, to Lorraine. And I think we should bear in mind that there was another phenomenal victory last night by a woman in New York. And in addition to the fantastic Paralympians, we toasted the Olympians at our last virtual PT, so they've had their toast. So this is to our Paralympians who thrilled us, and to a young woman by the name of Leila Fernandez. To Leila and the Paralympians, thank you very, very much for showing us what leaders and winners are. Thank you. And today, we're also grateful, of course, for the role models that came in the form of 11-year-old Frances, who is a member of the Caribou clan and who is a eager, passionate skier. So watch out for Frances. And also from Gisea, who is an avid soccer player. She's also from Burns Lake, the two of them, Burns Lake, BC, and she's a member of the Beaver Tribe. So together with Terry, those were other role models that we enjoyed today. So hopefully there's lots of inspiration and that you're feeling, yes, I can take on a big project. So my thanks to Lorraine, to Chantal, to Anne. I'm just going to ask that our technical crew, our talented AV crew now take them off the screen so they can relax and so that I can just tell you a little bit about some Famous Five initiatives that we have just adopted. And the very first one of those is called Say Her Name. It's important that we know who are the women who are making contributions to Canada, who are leading us forward. So please tell us about a woman that you feel needs to be publicly, prominently, permanently commemorated. Perhaps it's by naming a bridge after her, or a building, or a park, a road, a school. But we're happy to coach you in this regard. If you identify who the woman is, we'll give you some background and probably send you a letter of support so others can be inspired by this woman as we go forward. And in maybe a month's time, you'll hear about the work that we've been doing with a woman by the name of Brenda Robertson. She was New Brunswick's very first female MLA, the very first cabinet minister, female cabinet minister. And then she went on to serve in the Senate. But two of her key interests were education and health. And the benefits, the suggestions that she brought, that she made at that time, help New Brunswickers today. So that's the first woman that we've been able to help gain some extra recognition when the government of New Brunswick announces their commemoration, hopefully in about a month's time, I guess it is. Secondly, we have a bronze maquette of the Famous Five that Barbara Patterson, our sculptor, made, that we saw first in wax, and then we loved it so much we bronzed it, and then the jury chose Barbara's presentation to become the Women or Persons Monuments, which now live in Olympic Plaza in Calgary, but also on Parliament Hill or in front of the Senate, which has moved across the street from Parliament Hill in front of the Senate. So the Famous Five have been living in the Glenbow Museum in Calgary, for which we are very grateful. They've had a wonderful 15 years there. But it's now time for them to start their cross-country journey to post-secondary educational institutes. So they're starting with the Bow Valley College here in Calgary, and we need your help to make this tour happen. One of the reasons we're doing it is because we want to talk about the Famous Five and about some of the things that they believed or did in those days that we don't agree with today, but maybe also ask ourselves, what are we doing today that won't withstand the test of time? So here's hoping that the Famous Five will come and visit your post-secondary institution in your province sometime before 2024, October 18th, which is the 95th anniversary of the person's case. So two amazing virtual pink teas on their way to us on Friday, October the 1st. You'll meet Barbara Patterson, who is the sculptor of the Women or Persons Monument. And we now know that as important as a leader is, it's the first person who says, I will follow you, who's almost equally important. And that was our wonderful donor, Anne McKay. So Barbara and Anne will come together on October 1st to talk about the Famous Five Women or Persons Monument and why it's important that we use art to commemorate our history and the role that they play in the telling of a history and the changes that are happening to some of them, and how we, oh dear, I've sort of lost my train of thought here, how we respond to changing times in light of what we are commemorating a person for. November 5th, Brigadier General Krista Brody will join us. She's back by popular demand. She now is the VP of the Public Health Agency of Canada, responsible for the distribution of the COVID vaccine and other operations. So that's November 5th. And now our last toast. Our last toast goes to each and every one of us because we are leaders too. Many of you are leaders to a great number of people. And remember, even if you don't think you are a leader, somebody's watching and thinking, wow, that was a great way to do something or say something. So you're a leader too. So our last toast in a clear, strong voice is to say, to me, I'm a leader too. To me, I'm a leader too. Well, this brings us to the close of our virtual pink tea for today. I've made a mistake. My apologies to Brianna Burke. We were supposed to hear her song about why men should have the vote, which was based on Nellie McClung's mock parliament, but I sent over the wrong file. So following us, we will hear Brianna singing her song again about the famous five, but do remember to go and vote, please. And if you have a song or you know a song, if you've written a song about inspiration for women, please let us know because we'd love to feature you too. So now you're faced with a choice. Either you can stay on this channel, enjoy Brianna's song, write suggestions, write compliments to Chantal, Lorraine, and Anne for their wonderful insights today. Or you can check your inbox or in the chat room and see that there is another link, and it's to our après-tea discussion. And this will be with Anne and Lorraine. It will last about 30 minutes, and it's a chance for you again to ask your questions of these very fine ladies. So to Chantal, to Anne, to Lorraine, thank you very, very much. Merci, miigwech, à bientôt. We'll see you on October 1st. Thank you very, very much.
Years ago, women were treated very differently than they are today. No provinces in Canada granted women the right to vote yet, and women could not be appointed to the Senate. 5 Canadian women by the names of Emily Murphy, Irene Parlby, Henrietta Weir Edwards, Louise McKinney, and Nellie McClung put forward a petition called the Persons Case. They challenged the government, stating that women are considered persons too and should be able to sit in the Senate. In 1929, it was declared that women are legally considered persons. These women would be forever known as the famous five, the valiant five. Welcome to the 20th century. Women in Canadian history. We all had a role to play so that women could be heard today. We're the famous five, the valiant five, the famous five, the valiant five, changing the lives of the sisters, mothers, wives, the famous five. Here is why. It's me, I'm Nellie McClung. 1916, fought for women and won. Yes, we could vote, but I wasn't done. The famous five, we made a petition. Are we persons? Could you please clarify? Are we persons? Even if I'm not a guy. 1929, we say you can sit in the Senate if you are a lady. turn. I'm Emily Murphy. I'm educated and I moved to the prairie. 1916, my political victory. First woman judge, now can we win the battle of the person's case? Oh, it's the person's case. 1929, we say you can sit in the Senate if you are a lady. Oh. Henry Adam Weir Edwards, they call me. Women's laws and rights are my expertise. Many years we fought to be